Hey everyone, it's Hornby here. I think it's time to get back into my personal logs here. Now let's talk some more gaming memories here. As if you looked at my last gaming memories video there, I owned a Sega Genesis, but I also did have some memories with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System here. So the next system up I decided to get. Actually, I went and changed the brands again, as I decided, because I heard that the Sega Saturn was coming out, but I didn't feel that I wanted a Sega Saturn there, as there was already the disaster where Sega was trying to hang on to the Genesis too long with the CD and the 32X there. But I did decide to get a PlayStation, the first PlayStation, and I'm also going to mash in my memories, and I do still have some games for the PlayStation Portable here, because I feel like I'm mashing the two together here, because they got their original PlayStation, and the PlayStation Portable is almost equivalent to having the first PlayStation on the go. But as I say, that was my next system that I owned after having a Sega Genesis there. And I think if I recall, I did sell my Sega Genesis and my games to another childhood friend of mine, not the same one that I sold my Nintendo to, because they moved out of town a couple years later. But I believe I sold the system and games, and I think other games were either, I'm not too sure if I did trade them in at the Electronics Boutique, it was called at the time. We're going back to the mid-1990s there, but also going back to the mid-1990s there. The PlayStation, the first PlayStation, man, it was very steep, and I was only, I'm thinking at that time I was 14 years old there, so I definitely asked for, birthday money there, because I think it was just after my birthday there, and she went out and got the original PlayStation there, and I definitely had a love-and-hate with the system there, but not for the reason that you think, but I only had it for a couple of years there, because I eventually wanted to upgrade to another system, which actually turned out to be the system I'm second most nostalgic for, and I'll eventually get to that system there, but I think there was definitely some flaws in the system that I had. But anyway, my memories from the first PlayStation was that how expensive it was. I mean, now systems still cost $400 or $500 there. I think the gaming industry has figured out that we could cut our losses selling the console itself, and then try to always sell on accessories and games there. And this was also before a time when you have HDTV and HDMI imports where you had those composite cables, and if you still had like an old tube TV, and you had to buy those adapters, and even then those were hard to find with the PlayStation at the time there. But yeah, that was my next console that I had after the Sega Genesis there, and this was at a time when we went from 16-bit to 32-bit, and this was also that transition period that all gamers definitely know, that it was that era where you were trying to transform from 2D to 3D, and it worked in some ways, and others it didn't. But I think the games that I definitely remember, and I also spent a lot of allowance money at video stores as well. Remember that time, people, and all the younger people? Yeah, there used to be a time where you had to rent this. You had to do this thing called renting, where you have a short-term ownership of the item, let's say video game, and you have it for a couple of days, and you have to make sure you return it back, or you don't get paid late fees. But then the problem I have with some video stores is that they also account for the instructions and the game, and you return the game on time, and then they call you a month later saying, where's the instruction booklet? And eventually you get fed up with that, and you cut ties with that store, because people can't scan everything back. But yeah, those were the days there. But yeah, I mean, I remember with my PlayStation, I remember I had a game called, I think it was called A-Train, and it was because I actually liked the simulations games, and it was kind of a knockoff of SimCity there, so I had that. And then another game that I actually enjoyed you haven't heard much of is called Shockwave Assault there, and this is also the time where we were moving from cartridges to CD there, and you can almost say the PlayStation was almost kind of a watered down version of a PC console, where I know I had another childhood friend that I had the consoles while he had the games on the computer there, and he always kicked my ass there, and then I always kicked his ass on the console there, but he was more savvy with that, and I was more savvy with the consoles there, and that's what the PlayStation at the time felt like graphically, and how the games played. And now we look back on it, and some games, actually still look pretty good, especially now with the advent of HD and the fact that others just still look blocky. But at that time, it was the step up there. But I'm trying to think of the games that I owned, and not many games that I rented. And I know there was a nice demo disc too, and rattle off some titles too that I got exposed to on that demo disc that came with the PlayStation 1 here was, Tekken, the first Tekken. And there might be a debate here, but I only played Tekken 1 and 2, and I definitely thought 3, I didn't have a chance to play. Everyone thought that was the best one or in that era, but I definitely loved Tekken 2, and I know I briefly had tried 3, but 2 was better than the first one because it expanded on the first one. This was also the advent when fighting games were a lot more prevalent there. And also, I also remember on this demo disc, I think it was called Ace Combat. I remember renting that game, I never actually owned it. And also, I do remember Destruction Derby. That was a fun game that had a nice racing element too, and there were definitely a lot of racing games with PlayStation. There was Ridge Racer. Namco made that, and that's when I definitely had more appreciation for Namco. As I was still very, very young, and I didn't realize, they made those cool games like Pac-Man and Galaga there, and actually eventually warmed up to me where I became even more of a sucker for retro gaming, because the Namco Museum collection first started with with the PlayStation, and it just seemed kind of weird at the time, where you have this advanced system, but then you're playing, I'm not too sure if you even call that 8-bit, it was almost 4-bit arcade, and I just thought it was cool, and I just felt the Namco Museum, it was a great collection, and the Namco Museum games, that in the PlayStation 1 there, you actually walk through a museum, see all the artifacts of all the games there, but I still felt you got shortchanged on, no pun intended, with the arcade. But I felt that they could have put on a lot more games there, because you can put more bigger games on there. But I thought it was cool. They had Pac-Man, and also I only owned a couple of them. But it was how Namco was spelled Namco, and the PlayStation 1 had 5 volumes, and one had the Namco, and I remember actually only playing the first 3 volumes there, and the games I definitely got hooked onto those was obviously Pac-Man and Galaga, and actually I remember the Ridge Racer games had like a short burst, like a short play of that game, and you could see references to the Namco past on the Ridge Racer games there, and I definitely loved that. I've actually, for some reason, I'm not too sure, I thought Miss Pac-Man was easier, but it was definitely nice to play those games. But it was the cutscene, especially Miss Pac-Man, that was funny when you played a few mazes there. Obviously, there was Galaga, but the other, space shooting games, when you look at the Namco museums, I actually enjoyed was Galaxian. And then in the second volume there, I seem to like this one because of the, the sound effects and the faster pace, and the fact that you can take one of those bugs and join the good guys. It's kind of like, suddenly you hate this player, and now he comes to your team, and it was a rival team. Let's say a former runner, now a flame, or what I'm getting at, is gapless there, and that was a fun game. And I also got into like Toy Pop, and also the Tower Draga, and definitely Rally X. Oh man, those are the great games in the Namco museums there, and there was Boss County, I think it's called, and Xevious. Those are all great Namco museum games, and actually that kind of got me interested in those games, and it's definitely more prevalent now, and now I almost have to ask the younger kids today, what do you think of those games now? That they were around long before your time, and now you got a huge variety of games to play from, and they're all in a collection. Yeah, because at that time, that's all I had, and that was when coin-op arcades were still the thing, and you don't see that as much anymore for obvious reasons, and now you can have everything theoretically on your smartphone if you look in the emulation thing. But going back to other games that I remember having with the PlayStation, I mean, there was Ridge Racer. I remember trying like a Tokyo racing game, and I'm just trying to think of any other action games here before I get to the big one there that you might be thinking, when are you going to talk about this? And I do have members of that, but I mean, I don't think I remember there was a Soul Edge. That was another fighting game that was kind of a competition with the Tekken series. Oh yeah, and I played 1 and 2 there. Was the Battle Arena Toshinden, and oh yeah, Battle Arena Toshinden, the first one was on the demo disc there, and I seemed to enjoy that for some reason. It was definitely a different fighting game there, and I mean, I was lukewarm to Mortal Kombat, and there was just too much controversy there that kind of got me not as interested in it. But then I eventually, with a couple more combat games came out, I definitely got back into it with the trilogy game, just because it matched all the 3 games, hence trilogy. So I definitely played that on the PlayStation, and don't remember if I owned it or just rented it, but those are the games I had. And then the sports games, being a sports fan, definitely evolved even more, with the 4 major sports there, with and this golf. I remember playing that, renting. I obviously, the hockey games were the ones I had first, because being a Calgary sports fan here, and at least we have one of the big 4 in the NHL there, but obviously there was the Madden games and the baseball, and I definitely casually followed the major leagues and played a few NBA games there, where definitely, that's where they were able to build on, where it's more just pixelated players and teams, and where they at least got the licensee rights to use the logos, the teams, and get the players' names on there, but they advanced a little more. Although I was disappointed with one NHL game, and this was back at the time when Eric Lindros was one of the faces of the franchise there. I remember there was one NHL game there where they had like all 88s on every jersey. And I think that was still one of their work in progress there. And also, I did remember briefly playing Gex. That was the first time I played Gex there, and I definitely enjoyed that one, and all the catchphrases, the silly stuff that's in that game, and the parodies of pop culture that was in that game, and that action adventure there. And there was another game that's underrated, but it's awesome, and I definitely recommend it. It's the same company that made it. I think it's called Crystal Dynamics, that made the Gex game, is Pandemonium. That's where you have the Jester and the lady there. That was an awesome game where it looked 3D. It was a 2.5D game where you still have the traditional old school 2D side-scrolling, but it definitely visually was 3D, so it kind of still holds your hand in terms of being with the flow, but it gives you that visually. And there was a sequel too, the Pandemonium 2 there. I remember owning Pandemonium, and that's an underrated game for the PlayStation there, and definitely recommend that. But all the games, and of course Need for Speed, and I know that I played a few of those games and marveled. I mean, I'm not a car aficionado. I mean, I do obviously dream about having nice cars, and who doesn't? But it was definitely nice, and it was the first Need for Speed that I was like, wow, there was actually a scene where you dodged the police. And also, this is where you had actual videos, very pixelated. It would probably be like barely 144 in today's standards on YouTube. But I remember there were some cutscenes on there where the police was giving you, flack for speeding a little. and there were some cutscenes in there, and yeah, there was a couple Need for Speed games there. And speaking of another racing game, that was very, very revolutionary, was Wipeout, and definitely had a very nice soundtrack there. And I think that was also on the demo disc there too, the Wipeout, and that got me. It was definitely another different racing game there. But and the one I think I'm forgetting I'm going to get to it. But Super Mario is synonymous with Nintendo. Sonic the Hedgehog is synonymous with Sega. Well, who's kind of the mascot, would you say, for PlayStation? And I mean, it's kind of hard to pick one because there wasn't one that really stood out. But definitely the original Crash Bandicoot. I definitely played that, and the thing is now there's Crash Bandicoot on all the platforms now, but he was exclusive to PlayStation at the time, and then definitely was fun to see Crash Bandicoot. And I think that was one game. That was definitely one game that had the traditional 2D side scroll in some parts and great 3D, and it had a nice mix of that. And definitely I got some memories of playing the first one, and it was an awesome game, and I think it still is today. And if I ever, I mean, the thing that becomes a problem as you get older is you just don't have time to play games. And I definitely like the that there's a Insane trilogy, I think it's called, where and it's updated too, where it cleans up, because even though the 32-bit doesn't look as well today, especially in the advent of 1080 or even 4K HD, that they updated those 3 games, and you get 3 games there. But the first one definitely was fun, but definitely tested your might there. But that was all talking about the games there. But the one thing that was definitely flawed that I found with the PlayStation 1 there, that kind of made me really want to get rid of it, was the fact that I didn't like how it was designed. I mean, you pop open the disc there, you push it in, put it out there, but I think that was definitely hard in the disc there, and the disc eventually got scratched like a steel wool pad. And there was times I rented a game and I had to do an exchange because the damn thing couldn't load up, and that definitely took my enjoyment out of the games there. And sometimes you buy an older game and a newer system, or older system, newer game, it doesn't even load, and then you always had the problem with wanting to exchange this game for a different title because the damn thing wasn't working. After they got sick of me, they eventually helped me out. But I definitely, for the PlayStation 1 there, it was fun playing the games and renting games there. But it definitely, let's say hopefully they redesign. That's what ultimately led them to the redesigning the consoles there, and now they're up to a fit version of it. But there were some, definitely, I felt like some flaws on there, and I definitely was the reason why I only had it for a couple of years there, and the fact that the next system came out that I buy, that I'll eventually talk about that in the personal log, which turned out to be the system I'm second most nostalgic for. Well, it's only behind the original Nintendo there, so that's why I say that I did provide some memories, but I did provide a lot of frustration just the way how the PlayStation 1 is designed and how it scratched up the discs, and then a lot of time didn't load it up after a while there, and it got to the point where even after all the wear and tear of the discs there, it's like, yeah, eventually it wears it out, and it's almost like, gee, I don't want to be buying the same game again. And that was another reason why it was time to punt the PlayStation 1 there, and I think I eventually sold it to one of those, pawn shops and got pennies for it. And I don't know what someone else did, but I did read that was one of the flaws of the PlayStation 1 there, was the reading the discs and scratching the discs. Because it's not like a traditional disc player where you pop it in and then you pop it out there. It's like, if you had a CD player, and it's like you're playing the CD, but if you want to change CDs, you got to open it up without it stopping. And they said that's bad for the disc when it comes to musical discs, or it's like if you're playing a DVD movie or something, and yeah, there's a reset, but then it's still spinning the disc around. I mean, that's why they say when it comes to actual compact discs or DVD discs that you stop the, you make sure the disc stops, like actually not spinning. But it was also nice to actually, speaking of audio disc, it also served as a, kind of a CD player for your TV. And that was a novelty at the time where you could put your audio CD in there when it comes to the general load screen there. So yeah, I had some great memories playing the games. I just got frustrated with the system, the way it was designed at the time there. But where it redeems itself is the PlayStation Portable. Because I felt I do own the PlayStation Portable. I remember buying it 10 years ago. I still have it, I just haven't had time to play. And actually, I will show you games that I actually have for it. And I mean, that's the thing, as you get older, you have less time to play games here. And also, I did love the PlayStation Network game, where you can now download those games on the on your PlayStation Portable, save it on the memory card there. And I did relive some of those games, and it was definitely great to have those, like many of them that I've mentioned. And I actually finally got to play 2 and 3 on the PlayStation Portable as the game, and it was nice to relive some of those games. But for the PlayStation Portable here's all the games that I have, and I mean, I essentially call it a PlayStation on the go now. And the disc games, excuse me, they're almost like advanced, where even though for some reason you had that Game Gear, PlayStation Portable, but Nintendo, even that was before they made their other systems portable beyond the Game Boy. I gotta admire their longevity here. I did not buy the Vita, so there won't be a Gaming Memories personal blog of the Vita, because I don't have any, and I didn't have any desire to buy one. A, because I just don't have time to play video games, and B, the system actually didn't sell as well, even though it lasted as long as it did, and it didn't seem too much of an upgrade from what I had here. So let's get to the PlayStation Portable games here. So I had this one. This is the Road to the World Cup, South Africa here. That definitely was great. I mean, I am casually a soccer fan here, and actually I love the soundtrack here. And actually, one of the songs on here that got me interested in this band is Peter, Bjorn, and John. We had the Nothing to Worry About song on here. And actually, that's why I actually have some of that in my music collection. So, Peter, Bjorn, and John, you can thank this game, because I love that Nothing to Worry About game song there. And of course, I just loved how this game was at the time, and you have all the teams in there, and heck, maybe one day Canada will win that. Can only dream, or even make a tournament there. And then here's this one got bigger on the later PlayStations. Ape Escape here. I think I only briefly played this, but this was kind of like another, almost like a monkey ball. This was almost like a competition for that here, and so I have Ape Escape here, and I casually like that. So it was definitely fun to play this. Not as much now. So as much as I'm not a big fan of soccer, actually, I have to go back to that Peter, Bjorn, and John here. It was actually this game. This was the game, actually, that Nothing to Worry About was on. That got me interested in Peter, Bjorn, and John here. I know I had 2 soccer games here, and I was impressed in this game, like how deep it is, and it actually does have MLS Soccer on there. I mean, the only team you can maybe associate if I was an MLS fan would be Toronto FC. I mean, there's the Vancouver Whitecaps and the Montreal Impact, if I said it right there now. But so no, it was actually this game, Peter, Bjorn, and John, that this got me interested with that Nothing to Worry About song there. I know that that FIFA game there, it had a nice mix of international songs there. So yeah, I mean, this was also a fun game. I'm not a big soccer fan, and I'm obviously, you can see from my channel if you watch my other videos. I'm not a big soccer fan. I mean, I've had friends that played soccer, and I had a few that played for my St. Trojans. I definitely supported them, but I'll never get into it. And I'm not going to be the guy that's going to wear the scarf and do this and, sing and go, whatever, and start a riot when my team loses. But, so yeah, I actually had 2 soccer games on this PlayStation Portable. Next game here, this one is another underrated game here, is the Mercury Meltdown. I remember GameStop had this as a display here, but this is a very, very underrated game. it's a fun puzzle game where you unlock portals here, and it gives you an idea like the color wheel and mashing colors together, and tilting it right. But this is a very, very underrated game. And it also has 2-in-1 here. So, I mean, it's based on the same idea here. But, I definitely recommend this for an underrated title. For sure. I mean, if you love puzzle games here, I mean, of course, they're, started off with Tetris. And I remember having Othello and Columns on Sega Genesis. But check this out. I recommend it. Now, I did get rid of my PlayStation, and I heard it was a disappointment for the PlayStation Portable here, but this is the PlayStation Portable version of Gran Turismo. And this was on another racing game that I was actually impressed that there was this one says there's over like 500 cars or something on very, very track. Or this one says 800 stunning cars on 35 tracks here. I felt this was a nice collection here, and actually, I know you build up experience points and trophies there. I didn't play Gran Turismo, and it seemed mind-blowing at the time when, at the first PlayStation, where it had it said 500 cars there. I'm like, what? They put that many cars on a game? I mean, heck, sometimes you're happy with just your dozen or a few. But this one was an okay game. I apparently heard that there was better versions of it. This was actually one of the first titles I bought for it because I heard how great it was. And, actually I remember first popping this game open and playing it. And its cars are available here. And actually, the DeLorean was in there, I remember. As a big Back to the Future fan. And, yeah, that DeLorean. The DMC, DeLorean Motor Company. So I thought that was cool that I got that. It's like, hey, I got the DeLorean. But it doesn't go up to 88 and takes you in time there. So here's another game that was huge on the console systems, which briefly played it. It was kind of cute and funny. Little Big Planet. And I'm going to say it's definitely, this was definitely unique. A very, very unique game. I mean, who you could think of, making a, cutesy brown monster character that's friendly out of wool. I think I'm not quite sure what would inspire this game here, but I mean, it's definitely nice that I can play this on the go because I don't have the console of PlayStation anymore here. But so yeah, I mean, this is definitely a funny, quirky game. I mean, I haven't played these in years just because like I say, you don't have time to get older here. Now here's another one that I, going back to nostalgia and going back to the NES here, Mega Man. Well, here's Mega Man powered up here. And I definitely love this one because it definitely, pretty much updated the first Mega Man here. And this one definitely did it right to bring that back. I mean, I'm not too sure if they made number 2. Because if you go back to my gaming memories on the NES video there, it was Mega Man 2 that I actually enjoyed the most, and I rented that game the most. Even though I never had it, I had 3 and 4 when I had the NES. But yeah, and then also I played the Anniversary Collections later here, so I actually finally got to play the first one here. But this one definitely was a nice update to it, and there was a classic mode, and it has an online mode here, but this definitely does it right, where it keeps the traditional 2D. That's what Mega Man's meant to be played in 2D. The 3D thing, they butchered that. But and that kind of had this is, let's say, an updated version of the same classic. I mean, I think if you want to play Mega Man, you got to play it in its purest form. Same with the music. And I mean, good old Capcom. I mean, it's their own products. It's not like a knockoff of it. But yeah, I definitely recommend this one too. Just to see an updated on the classic there. But I definitely still have the most fun playing the classic. There's another racing game that I briefly played here and there. It's Mod Nation Raider Series. This one definitely gets your creative juices going. And I know that I played this a few times many years ago. But definitely another quirky customization game there. I mean, That's where games got bigger now, that you're not just stuck with what they give you. And of course, I am definitely a sucker for classic games here. And actually, I found that this Namco museum actually almost has one of the best. And of course, I think that's still the GameStop sticker on there that I try to take off. But this one definitely had all the favorite games in Namco Museum that like. I mean, it went away from the museum part, but it definitely, had the updated versions here. As you can see, the Pac-Man, Galaga arrangement, new Rally X, and Dig Dug arrangement. When it comes to the Rally X's there, the new Rally X was definitely a lot easier, but yeah, all arcade favorites. You got Pac-Man, Rally X, BossCon, Grobda. That's an interesting. Actually, that game, if you first learn it, definitely is very frustrating because it's one of those tank games. Then you got Dig Dug 2, Miss Pac-Man, New Rally X, Motos, Rolling Thunder, Dragon Buster, Galaga, Dig Dug. Yeah, I forgot to mention that game. The classic dig and popping blowers. Oh yeah, Nappy. That was an awesome game where you're the mouse and you're trying to run away. Tower Draga, King and Balloon, Galaxian, and Xevious, and then the arrangement games as you see on the front here. So I actually found this, and it's Battle Collection too. I found this. This was definitely worth it for all what you get here. And I definitely was impressed with like how many titles they actually finally put on here. Because I think Namco Museum definitely could put a lot more titles on their game there. And hopefully they finally just, go all out, go all broke. I definitely would want that. And then I had to have a little Need for Speed Shift here. Another customizable racing game here. I still think the original Need for Speeds were like the best ones, but you can get this on the go here. So we have collection and Sega Genesis. There's another nice collection here for Sega Genesis. Their best days here with good old Sonic the Hedgehog here. And on here there's 28 games here. I mean, you got Golden Axe, Shadow Racer, Virtua Fighter 3 or 2 there, Comic Zone, Columns, Ride Star, Echo the Dolphin, then Sonic the Hedgehog, and then it has Alex Kidd and China Castle, Bonanza Brothers, Kid Chameleon, Flicky, Game Ground, Final Fantasy Star 2, 3, 4, Super Thunderblade, Sword Million, Vector Man 1 and 2. So, yeah, this definitely brought back my Sega Genesis there. And a few other updated titles here. So, and then the last one. Well, let's have some Wipeout on the go here. Wipeout Pure there. And I know that they used an interesting font here for Wipeout here. And I think some people almost said Wig Out when you rented the game there. But yeah, this is your futuristic racing game. What we'll all be driving about 700-800 years from now. Well, yeah, the Wipeout. And it always has that, futuristic electronic soundtrack there. So yeah, that's my memories of the PlayStation Portable there. That's what I actually own here. I'm not too sure if I'm going to, go over all the games that I have for other systems here when I get to that. But, so yeah, I mean, that's my memories with the Sony PlayStation, the PlayStation 1, and the Sony PlayStation Portable there. And I probably rekindled some nostalgic memories for you guys there. And then I said I love the PlayStation Portable where you can download. I mean, it's not all the games, but I definitely was nice to play, Crash Bandicoot, Pandemonium on the PlayStation Portable there. I think there was a Ridge Racer there. And Tekken 2. That was my favorite Tekken there. I mean, you can argue and say, well, this one's better, but I only played so many at the time there. And Destruction Derby, I remember playing that right on my PlayStation Portable there, but yeah, I mean, it definitely was I definitely gave Sony a little bit of money there. I just gotta wonder what makes them come up with their own memory card here. I mean, here's another thing I gotta say with memory cards here is that 90% of people are gonna have SD cards. Everything's SD cards. It's very universal here, and Apple is definitely another one that's guilty with that too, where they have to make their own customizable things and charge 10 times the price for it. And to me, that drives me away. I work hard for my money, don't have much of it, and times are tough. That's another reason why I haven't been updating gaming besides the time lack thereof, as I'm happily single, and I still have career and life responsibilities and that, and I have other priorities now too. But yeah, I think that's a lot what I covered when it comes to Sony PlayStation, the first one, and the PlayStation Portable there. So yeah, of course, if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, just make sure you like, subscribe, and follow that bell icon here. I mean, this is a nice break from my Calgary sports content here, and I've done a few gaming memories videos here, and there's going to be a few more as I go through my personal vlogs list here. But this is where, I just talk about anything on my mind and share my stories, and hopefully, give you some nostalgia memories with gaming here. As it's still in my blood, just like bowling. It's still in my blood, but work and life gets in the way, and you just don't have time. And maybe I'll finally get back into this if I actually get to retire, and who knows where gaming will be by then. And would it still be a thing, or who knows? That's still many, many decades from now there. But so yeah, if it sounds like everything you do is hit like, subscribe, and I'll say, I'll still gotta say go Flames go, because I definitely played some. That's where the hockey games have definitely got more advanced on there, and that's where I also first started to think, this player would look great in a Flames jersey. Mostly, someone who's very, very good, that you'll never see him play a Flame. That was before the salary cap era there. Man, it was also nice to see that with video games, as you see players that, this guy would look really good in a Flames uniform and play well for Calgary. That's the thing there. And so yeah, as I say, see you in the next video there, and enjoy your games, and hopefully I brought back some gaming memories for you there. So talk to you soon.